We are forever here on a quest for Shakari on V'ger Please. My name is Joseph.
I was on a quest to find the fast forward button. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Isn't that not your promised land when having to watch what we had to watch this time around? You were enjoying Deep Space Nine too much.
That's a problem.
You need to have your balls dragged back through broken glass, and nothing will do that than like having to produce some extra content for our Patreon subscribers, particularly when we have to watch this entry. What was it, Peter?
This was Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, screenplay by David Lowery, story by William Shatner, Harve Bennett, and David Lowery, directed by Bill Shatner. This would be running in the in-universe date of 2287, release date June 9th, 1989. Oops!
So, it goes without saying, prior to Kurtzman Trek gracing our presence, this has largely been considered the worst Star Trek production ever made. It is in competition in some ways with Nemesis. It's in competition with the Enterprise finale. But I think that the consensus has been this is as bad as it gets as far as Star Trek under the prior management aegis is concerned.
You know, I really look forward to getting to Nemesis because when I watched it, it did not leave the worst taste in my mouth. And for the amount of times you reference it as a Star Trek low point, like with my Turbo Nerd podcaster glasses on, what am I really going to see in that thing? I did not like the voyage home at all.
Correct. Yes.
I thought that was a real pile of shit. I thought them leaning into comedy was a real bad move, and I was not happy watching that thing. And this blew it out of the fucking water in terms of trash.
It is everything you specifically hated about Voyage Home done 10 times worse. And that's the real problem with this movie, is that the meta of the creation of it, I think, explains why it wound up the way it is. Voyage Home, huge hit for Paramount, huge hit for the Trek franchise. Good enough that Next Gen starts getting made. The whole Trek IP relaunches into pop culture relevance as a consequence of Star Trek 4. And so when they made 5, after their original idea fell apart, and I'll get to that, they were left going back into the comedy direction as the overall preference because that hit so good with audiences. It was so successful financially that they wanted to run that back. They think that this is maybe the recipe for success at the box office with this franchise. And this has all of the wrong kinds of comedy in it. Like, I like Star Trek 4 because there's a sort of fish out of water element to it that I think is charming, particularly apocryphally as you look at it as not only as a period piece of Trek, but period piece of 80s cinema and the way people thought of certain issues then. I think there's something to be said about it, but this is just buffoonery. You're making your main characters in this film look like a bunch of incompetent assholes who don't know how to do things. And that is not what you want to do with Star Trek. Like in Star Trek 4, everyone is portrayed as a very expert space person. Like they're all professionals. They're all getting a very difficult job done. In this, it's jokes about marshmallows and the use of goofy ass rocket boots and falling off mountains and getting your ship taken over by a bunch of rejects who didn't make the fucking Fallout television show. It's not good. It's not funny. And the serious parts of the movie, when they finally start to show up, seem completely out of place because the rest of your film has not prepared you for it.
I'm looking at the write-up in Plex, at least, which did use for it was like comedy science fiction or something. This, it's just action adventure. And I mean, I guess there's a lot of action in there, but boy, am I hard pressed to consider this action sequences. Can you say three good things about this movie?
Can I say three good things about this movie? I can say two good things about this movie. I can get to two. I think that the diamond in the rough in this movie is that there's a lot of good Dr. McCoy content.
Yes.
You kind of get a better sense of him as a character. You get a better sense of him as a real person within this universe. Like his personality, his backstory gets a little bit of focus, which we've never seen before. And despite itself, I still like the chemistry between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Some of their scenes, even some of the comedy when they're just hanging out in Yosemite, is pleasant enough. It's charming. It's by itself as a little vignette, not as a movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. That's. Oh, I can say. I can say a third good thing. The guy who played Cybok. Not this movie's not his fucking fault. I'll give him a pass.
I thought he was good.
Yeah,
Here's
he did
my
his
three
best.
things. And I can only say three things because I was thinking about it in the shower.
Okay.
The scene with McCoy's dad dying was amazing.
Solid. And
that comes right out of left field because it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was watching a sci-fi original. Did we get real actors in this?
Wait a second. What's this gravitas coming from?
Wow. What a tragic fucking story. And that's ridiculous for you to sit here and say that this is the first time we've really gotten a look at McCoy. What, 4 seasons of original series, right? Or is it
3 seasons of original series, but they were very large seasons. So 4 of a traditional series.
And the fact they never really dug into Bones as a character is crazy. He was just kind of this prickly side decoration that, is always welcome in a scene. So the dad dying was amazing, both in terms of McCoy as a character and humanizing the people of the future where, you could have this awful ironic twist in this post-scarcity utopia of science and magic technology. I thought the line as they're fooling around in the Yosemite campfire about how Kirk says he knows he'll die alone, like that sequence there specifically was good enough to like shoot out of the nonsense going on in that scene like a fucking chest burster. You're like, oh, this is some fucking real talk, right?
Yeah. The pieces of and that's why I say like overall the 3 of them together add some things to this movie that don't make it watchable, but make it like those things interesting, have to do with a honest development of their relationship together post Spock's death and resurrection. To the point was specifically referenced, like McCoy comically saying, "I liked him better before he died." There is a lot to it then of these 3 men know each other better than any other humans on the planet, and they're each other's family, and that shit works.
Yeah. And then my third good thing I'll say is at some point when they are being raided by the Borderlands people,
yes,
we get one hallway shot where they're running through corridors of the Enterprise A, and it is very clearly what will become the Enterprise D corridors. And I got very excited to see a little bit of the D in this pile of shit. So thank you for all the great set reuses that we will get out of these movies into the television shows, in this case specifically at Hollywood. But that's the other thing I was thinking about. Like, this movie felt like it was made entirely out of shit that was just laying around. Like,
yeah, hey, it like Star Trek 3, it felt cheap, which is strange considering it follows on something that was very financially successful. You would think that their wallets would be a little bit more open to wanting to like assist the success to continue. But like Star Trek 2 hits, Star Trek 3 is made with a box of scraps. Star Trek 4 hits, Star Trek 5 is made with a box of scraps.
Like, little scrap. They're like, okay, we're gonna tell a new story. It's gonna be about God. Okay.
Sort of did that in the motion picture, but sure.
Well, you know what? Let's reuse the set that was essentially a sand lot where there's mountains and rocks that start sticking out of the ground, kind of like where we killed Christopher Lloyd. Yeah, right, great. And while we're talking about Klingons that died, don't we have like an entire Klingon bridge still laying around? Yeah, that's what the heroes were using on the last one. Cool. Well, plug some Klingons in here so like half the scenes of the movie can take place on this pre-existing set we've already got over
there. Put
a
periscope and like sync the set down a little bit and we'll be good to go.
before we start getting into the history of this thing, which I'm very interested to hear because I did not look at the Wikipedia at all, I want to talk about the pretty ladies.
This movie does have some.
Specifically, the Klingon fitness hottie, just the gun show, right?
Yes, the woman who lives in the gym.
Yes, and then the Romulan ambassador, High Elf. Both beautiful women. The Klingon gets a lot of screen time.
She does. She also speaks in English quite convincingly in one scene in one of the very few clever sort of uses of the visual cues that she's not fully Klingon, right? Like she looks like she's more like B'Elanna Torres with her reduced forehead ridges,
which is always hard to say in the earlier stuff. Once we got out of like the movie era, I guess we'll say they still hadn't like really locked out
the look. Yeah.
They're in there. They're very clearly in there as eye candy. And this, I think, might be the first Star Trek movie where there's not really like a strong female main presence. Uhura certainly gets way more screen time in this than she has gotten in any of these other movies.
Yeah.
A good chunk of that is a focus on her as a sexual object, both in terms of being the naked palm leaf dancer and this weird out of nowhere attraction to Fat Scotty.
Never before suggested on camera, nor never again suggested on camera afterwards.
She went through a fat boy phase. I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
sometimes you want a fat Scottish man, and she just lucked out, right? Like it's just one right there for you.
But do you see what I mean? Like there's no real main female character in this movie, and I found that very jarring.
You're right. It is, well, yeah, Star Trek 1, obviously, it had the Delshan lady who got turned into V'ger's, like, surrogate. I guess Wrath of Khan had Carol Marcus as your main female character, yeah. Search for Spock, less there, right?
But
like that's
another Saavik.
Had Saavik in it, so you probably can call like her a main female character, but I would say that's more like this movie in that she's tertiary.
I agree.
But even she still has a more pronounced presence in that film than either of your potential female characters here. A Romulan lady who's just there for tits, and then the Klingon lady who's also kind of there for the same reason, but feels like she's got more agency in the story. And then Star Trek 4, obviously, you've got the whale doctor who
who's crazy.
back, who's crazy and jumps into the future. So yeah, this is definitely the movie with the weakest female presence, and Star Trek 6 definitely has a strong female presence in it with Lieutenant Valeris. So this is unique in that way. It's interesting to point that out, and that it kind of does seem to subtract from the film.
Was Bill Shatner? Did I say Bill Shatner had writing credit on this?
Yes, he does.
Listen, we'll get to that. I keep going back to Robert Duncan McNeil in Delta Flyers talking about how upset the cast would get when there would be any focus off of them and side characters that would come in. And every single Voyager episode was like, here's a different configuration of the main cast, and maybe if you're lucky, we'll have a guest actor in here too. Deep Space Nine, complete opposite end of the spectrum. I'd have to go back and really watch Next Gen with those glasses on to see how much main cast is sharing screen time with other people. But knowing that Bill Shatner is the egotist that he is, like I can very much see them being like, we need to zoom in on us. This needs to be the bro show. That really needs to be the thrust here is the three amigos and us and nobody else, and give me that screen. And since I'm the director and I've got some writing credit, I can make that manifest.
I'm going to get to that in just a second. I just decided to unlock some knowledge that I hadn't previously researched on the character of Vixis, who is the Klingon hottie. Okay. The lady who played her is named Spice Williams.
I believe it.
Yeah. She seems like a Spice Williams. She actually was involved in the Star Trek universe, not as an actor, but actually throughout DS9 and Voyager as a stunt performer. She's a stunt woman.
I
She
believe
was
it.
Jerry Ryan's stunt double. She was a stunt double for uh, a couple episodes of DS9 we've already watched, Invasive Procedures and Dax. She was in those. Yeah, so she is primarily a stunt woman, or was. She's in her 70s now. I'm sure she's not working, but
She could still kick my ass.
listen, she could have kicked my ass in 1989. That's probably because I was 6, but that would have worked. But to your point, right? Let's return to what
You
you're
don't
actually.
think it's because you think it's because you're 6 and not the fact that her biceps are as thick as the center console in my car?
I mean, yeah, obviously I don't think I've seen a woman quite as built as her on screen in some time. Like, good on you, girl. Like, I don't know.
Klingons are real. I believe it because I saw this lady at the gun show.
But yeah, what we say about Picard? Never be your own storyteller, right?
Yes.
Don't want that. You don't want to be the person telling the story for yourself.
Inmates
And
do not run the asylum.
And you've got Bill Shatner not only directing this, but writing this. He got to direct it because of a contract favored nations clause, which is that anything that Nimoy gets, he also gets, and vice versa. And Nimoy directed movies, and so he basically was able to force his way into being able to direct Star Trek V as a consequence. And his original idea actually was to have someone else write the whole thing. He did not want to write it, which might be the only smart thing I've ever heard about his impulses when it came to this film. There was this fantasy author named Eric Van Lustbader who...
What?
Yeah. Apparently he was writing some...
What is his fans called?
I mean, okay.
Lustbader?
Eric fans.
I consider myself a huge Lustbader. Big fan.
So this guy wrote just a ton of call it Eastern inspired fictional stuff in the 70s and 80s. Very into Japan. He lived there, and apparently Shatner read some of his books and he thought like that he had a good sense of something for a Spock centered film. That was his idea of Spock as a sort of like stranger in a strange land type of circumstance as he continues to, reassert himself post dying and coming back to life. And then for whatever reason, they couldn't agree to the rights of the novel that he basically wanted to have him adapt into a Star Trek film. And after that, he didn't have very many good ideas. So they just sat down and wrote something. And it's a patchwork that doesn't work. And it's quite evident that this is the creative process that went on when you watch it, right? Like, it seems disjointed. It seems to have several different kind of elements to it. It has this seriousness. There's this element with Sybok that's very Spock focused. You can see like where Shatner has, like you said, like he wants this to be focused on the trio. He wants a bro movie. He wants to be about them. And these other impulses from Harve Bennett and Dave Lowry came in, and then it kind of came together in a fashion that just was not a functional film at all.
That sounds like classic Star Trek botch script recipe.
Yeah, it sounds like Hollywood botch script territory, right? Like, this isn't even like specifically Star Trek. This is exactly how bad movies are made, and then you put it in the hands of essentially a novice director in Shatner, who I don't think did terribly. I don't necessarily think that a good version of this movie exists, but even theoretically, but when you think about like directing choices, camera movements,
it's a
like
little
the technical stuff
in the beginning with like
it's not
Sybok
bad.
rolling up like the dark horse or whatever, but no, it's not bad. It's 80s.
Yeah,
it's appropriate.
Generic. Yeah,
I want to go back to Spice Williams real quick here. She's an ops of rage. She's wearing a blonde wig. It is her who beats Kira Nerese's ass.
Yes,
she is Space Hooker. All right, and again,
you're right. Yeah,
I'm gonna give Kira Nerese a little bit of credit. Okay, maybe she's not that bad of a fighter. She did just take on female He-Man, so
You're right. It does take the stank off Kira Nerys getting her ass whooped by a hooker. If the hooker that was whooping her ass was secretly the most
Man.
jacked female I've literally seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. I mean, I could see a grown man probably also potentially losing that fight. So, okay, all right, Kira, you're off the hook
A little bit. A little bit.
a little bit.
What is Gene Roddenberry's role at this point, if anything? Or have they completely
Interesting. You
taken
should
this
bring
out of
that
his
up.
hands?
Interesting. You should bring that up. There's a lot in the Memory Alpha about this. He is now in a position at this point where he is disempowered entirely on the Star Trek films. And they've taken away a lot of his power because this is season 2 of TNG when this is being made.
Wow.
From that as well. He is being taken off the capacity of having any real say about what's going on. He's an executive consultant. He's still getting paid. It's his creation. He still has rights to be present and receive money, but he's being ignored on a creative level. And
I want to sit here for a minute and think about this because I did not consider the existence of Next Gen at all. Next Gen came out. When did Star Trek 4 come out? That was 83?
86. So Star Trek 4 came out in 86. This came out in 89. So 3 years apart.
When did Next Gen premiere?
88.
So this is the first time you have a Star Trek movie coming out while there is Star Trek TV show in broadcast.
87. It came out in September of 1987. But yes.
That hallway that they show that I'm talking about in this may have actually been a Next Gen set piece being used.
It is, actually. So again, this is some very interesting material that is kind of sprinkled throughout the Memory Alpha, but also has been relayed by somebody who I think doesn't deserve quite the same respect he used to, but did offer some interesting background information, and that is Will Wheaton. And he talked a lot, actually, about the fact that this movie was being shot at the same time of season 2 of TNG. And he had his whole story about how he met Bill Shatner. Bill Shatner was a dick and all this other stuff. But
Good on you, Bill.
They were constantly having to interact with the film crew because they were using their sets. So that is a Enterprise D hallway you saw. There are a number of that's the Enterprise D shuttle bay. So yes, there's quite a few. There's a different bridge. There was a movie bridge, but there was a lot of reuse of those sets.
Crazy to think that you could be running Next Gen and there's original series cast movies in the theaters at the same time. And how is this thing ultimately received? Did people know this was shit as soon as they sat there and watched the first scene?
They knew while they were making it was bad, is the number one thing I saw. Nobody was fooled that they were making a good movie. No one thought that they were going to recreate the success of Star Trek 4. They all walked away from it thinking, like, I don't know how this comes together. So there was some self-awareness that they made something of a turkey. Financially, it did fine, ultimately, because, again, they didn't spend a tremendous amount of money on it. So that helps it. The fact they only spent $33 million and they made $63 million kind of came out even, given the era. It actually ended up making them some money on the back end because it was a huge hit for VHS, particularly as a rental. So they sold a lot of copies to mom and pop rental places.
But it's not like, wow, this thing fucking sucks. This hurts Star Trek as a brand, and this is going to bring down Next Gen numbers.
No, I think it was basically forgotten because 1989 was an absolute banger year for films. And so it was just forgotten. This is like when Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, you're talking about some of the absolute, seminal 80s movies. Lethal Weapon 2, Batman, the original
89.
Burton Batman came out in 89. So yeah, it was just a movie that fell to the wayside and was forgotten rather than mocked.
So Gene has already been disempowered off.
Yeah, he's disempowered at this point. He actually he almost wanted to sue over this movie existing. He declared it basically non-canon.
Good, yes.
Which the rest of the Star Trek universe has essentially complied with since.
Yeah, I imagine him seeing this thing and just going absolutely ballistic. Like, no, you cannot do this. Well, you want to start talking about this first act?
prologue and the first act. Well, let's talk about the prologue first because it sets the tone for some of the things about this movie that doesn't work. And they're on. It's this dusty, post-apocalyptic looking world
It's
where some
Nimbus 3,
guy
but we're going
with
to call it Pandora.
the world's worst teeth guy is digging holes and is approached by somebody who just kind of rolls up and seems to have some kind of supernatural power to make people feel better about their pain. To the extent that he gains their loyalty when he does so is very unclear, and you don't really know anything about the guy except that he's a Vulcan, and that he's very emotional, which is very different. We've never seen this before at this stage in Star Trek. It's a novelty. And they kind of fade back out of that to readdress later. So much about this teaser is wrong. If Star Trek is anything, post-apocalyptic, grime core is not it, right? Like it's not the aesthetic of Star Trek, especially not TOS era Star Trek. And so opening with that is just like, what am I watching? What kind of movie am I watching if this is happening? And then you have a very Vulcan looking character in sort of those big billowy Vulcan robes that we saw in Star Trek 3, and it's such a like a weird fish out of water moment of like, you see, seems to be two movies combining at once. Like, this isn't right, and it's like right off the bat, this movie doesn't seem to understand what the fuck it is.
You can have this planet in Klingon space or in Romulan space or outside of the Federation, but this Nimbus 3, I mean Pandora, is dubbed what, the world of peace or something, and it's basically, it's in the neutral zone. It's
Correct.
a joint colony by the Romulans and the Klingons and the Federation, which also, this is supposed to be during like the blackout period for the Romulans, is it not? So when we come into Next Generation season 1, it's a big fucking deal when we start hearing about the Romulans.
It is. So I think technically this movie does work in the continuity because during Balance of Terror is when they actually saw the Romulans for the first time. And that would have been like 20 years before this. But it still like barely works, right? Like the idea that the Romulans would be like willingly involved in a colonization experiment with the Klingons and the Federation doesn't make a lot of sense.
You know what? Not this movie's worst crime.
Not at all. Not even close. Not even close.
The idea, though, that you would have a Federation colony with a Federation ambassador or counselor or whatever he was, the bad guy from Tron.
Okay, I actually did not look this guy up. The character's named St. John Talbot. The actor is David Warner.
Yeah.
He was...
It's in Tron, isn't he?
Yeah, he plays Gorkon in Undiscovered Country, which he's much better in. Most importantly to us, though, he was the Cardassian in Chain of Command that was torturing Picard. Same guy.
That butter smooth voice of sadism.
Much better used there.
I'm glad this didn't cost him the rest of his Star Trek opportunities because he brings some fire to the screen. The idea that the Federation would be involved in this fucking colony in the complete absolute shit show it is. And this isn't some little place that nobody knows about. Like, it gets mentioned to Kirk and he instantly knows. Like, I have a very hard time believing the Federation is turning their back on this thing. You have dirt farmers eating dirt with their 3 teeth.
Yeah, that's not how the Federation rolls, right? Like they would be actually putting effort in, right? Like it's just not what they do.
This looks like it's a joint colony between the Klingons, the Romulans, and Mexico, maybe? I don't know.
The moon. It's Luna.
It's RoboCop. That capitalist fucking bad guy from Terra.
Yeah, you said it. Planet Borderlands.
Pandora.
It just doesn't belong in Star Trek. But so the Act 1 is mostly centered on the only part of the movie that has any charm to it, and that is like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy on shore leave together in Yosemite, just like hanging out like bros, camping. Kirk is trying to free climb El Capitan.
Not trying, absolutely crushing it. Tell me that Bill Shatner directed this movie without showing me in writing that Bill Shatner, okay, this was such a disjointed mess for me. Watching this guy who's, I forget how old they said he's got to be at this point, in
In the
his
50s.
60s, right?
He's in his 50s at this point.
Fucking hanging off the rock with his feet swinging free in the air. Like, listen, man, I saw this guy in Star Trek 4 eating pizza and shit. I believe he can eat pizza. I don't believe he's free climbing Capitan. And it's such a stark contrast to Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, where they're pushing him into late life. And he is coming to this point where, like, he has to get glasses and really accept that, like, I'm not the strapping young swashbuckler of my 30s anymore.
I'm not the guy who used to be the dude who went out and just ravished every alien woman with a phaser on my hip. That's not my life anymore.
This fought Gorn. All right.
Yeah.
And now they got him out here like he's Stallone and Cliffhanger. The fuck out of here.
There's charm to the, Spock is awkward about all of these kind of like human traditions as it relates to camping, and him reasserting his sort of personality and emotional intelligence in the aftermath of everything that's happened to them. And the fact that the three of them have nowhere else to go but hang out with each other on shore leave because they don't have families. And that plays out nicely between them as they hang out and, abortively sing songs and eat boozed beans, that a recipe that McCoy notes he got from his father.
Which was nice foreshadowing. That there is a strong relationship between him and his dad, that he loves his dad, and that if you're shitting on the beans, you're shitting on his dad. On
his father. Yeah. Very Southern honor, because he's supposed to be from Mississippi. So
this should have been really great scenes, and they ruin it with dumb humor.
Yes.
And that's, that ties back to everything you said about them trying to reach into that Star Trek 4 well of humor and just jam the shit in. These could have been touching, good scenes if they weren't reaching for this almost Three Stooges level nonsense that they get going on here. Also, the rocket boots, which I feel did terrible damage to my headcanon of Star Trek, because there's many a Next Generation and Voyager episode that could be completely solved by having these rocket boots.
Pretty sure they made a episode of Lower Decks at some point. The rocket boots. They made an appearance. I know this.
You also have Sulu and Chekhov down there too, lost out in the woods.
It's funny because they're supposed to be the navigator of the Enterprise. That's it. That's all they got for them. Like, you're lost. Wander around. Get rescued. That's your plot for the entire movie. Otherwise, you don't matter. You might as well not be here. Here's your paycheck. Fuck you.
They got a lot of screen time in 4, and that's kind of, I think, what we're seeing here is that Uhura got, she got fucked over, so she gets some real screen time on this one, and those guys get rotated to the back.
It's interesting to think about, like in Star Trek 6 with Sulu being a captain, like that they tried to reorient again after this, trying to put some people into different positions.
Well, that was the right move to move him over. And speaking of him as captain, we do get the view of the Excelsior.
It's a reuse of the shot from Star Trek 4, yeah.
Whatever, the fucking Excelsior is there. You've got a new Enterprise that is replacing the Enterprise that blew up on Genesis or crashed or whatever, right?
Correct.
I want to talk about this thing for a minute, because you've got the Excelsior out, and I assume the Excelsior class spooling up for production. You've got Miranda's, you got the Oberth, and then you got this Constitution class that is our holdover from Next Gen, and that was the premier warhorse. But my impressions of it was Wrath of Khan, where they were bringing it back in, and they're like, look, you're not getting another ship, and the Enterprise is way past retirement age. Like, we're done with this thing. Very interesting that they have a new Enterprise to put out, and obviously they need a fucking Enterprise because that's what the show is about. They're going to find a way to get this thing. But like, Was this another Constitution class that just so happened to be coming off the line? They rechristened as Enterprise. Was this a pre-existing vessel they renamed? What? It's in a terrible state of repair, and it seems like it's supposed to be new, and they got to like shake bugs out. Not like it's some old piece of shit they just put new paint on, but like, is there any lore there?
There is, in fact, quite a bit of lore on this question because everyone has the same questions you have of what is this ship? Why does it exist? Why do they have an extra Constitution class vessel that they could possibly do this with? And that is because it was not designed, obviously, to be a Enterprise. It was designed to be the USS Yorktown.
Interesting.
And it was in the middle of a refit into the Constitution 2 class starships that the remaining Constitution class vessels were being refit into to extend their service life.
Interesting. So that was like the whole, like across the line, all Constitutions were being changed to the new warp nacelle and
correct
sleeker look, and it was the Yorktown, and it became the Enterprise.
Correct. They rechristened it the Enterprise A and gave it to Kirk to command as a acknowledgement of the power of the name of the vessel. So
imagine if you were a Yorktown veteran and you find out they just took your ship and fucking erased it.
Renamed it. So yeah, this is a pre-existing vessel that was in the middle of essentially being redone, and then they said, "Well, you know what? It's the Enterprise A now. This is yours, Jim. Good luck."
Is he captain or is he admiral? No, he got demoted.
He's
right?
Captain. He got demoted.
Scotty's spending his shore leave fixing this thing. A suddenly love-struck Uhura has skipped her shore leave so she can hang out and eat freeze-dried ice cream with him on the bridge.
Uhura, I didn't know you were a chubby chaser, man. It's just not a good look for you, girl.
Hey, well, you know what? Feel free to chase chubby over here. I will happily take your attention. They get this call from Starfleet, and they're docked. Like, they're at space dock in orbit over Earth. And they go, hey, we've got this crisis. These Borderlands scavengers, raiders, have overtaken our embassy in Pleasure City or Pleasant City, whatever.
Paradise City, yeah.
Where our headquarters is set up in this go-go bar where they've got a 3-titted cat lady dancing on the bar.
Yeah, it's like what was the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger on Mars?
Total Recall.
Total Recall. This is very Total Recall. The whole feel is very like grimy space outpost on Mars, and there's you get a like quick meeting. Like, here's the Romulan, she's the hottie. Here's the bitter Federation guy who smokes cigarettes all the time. Here's the fat Klingon that like used to be a big deal, and foreshadowing that's going to come in handy later. And Sybok, as we'll learn, shows up with the Borderlands people, just takes it over because there's no guns. And so they just have like improvised Fallout guns that shoot rocks, and that's good enough. With pressurized gas and shit,
They got paintball guns.
And they need to send the Enterprise out because for some reason Jim Kirk is the only like veteran commander available, which doesn't make much sense.
It is terrible because
not a good premise.
Star Trek 1, they threw everything they had and nothing could stop V'ger and blah blah blah.
Right.
Star Trek 2, it just so happened that accident of circumstance, and also you had Khan on the other side, like kind of engineering this thing, right?
Correct.
So that's 2 different camps building a bridge that meets in the middle, where I go, okay, it's reasonable to take Kirk and this training crew, this understaffed training crew, into this very dangerous thing. 3,
the circumstances are what they are. They're committing crimes. They're going to go save Spock. 4, same thing. Like, we're just going to flyer on this idea of time travel, try to save the day.
Why?
Here we are. There's no enough connective tissue to make this work. It just doesn't.
Is there some Star Trek movie rule that you must always have a understaffed Enterprise in original series era? Like, so your ship is falling apart. Your crew is understaffed. You're pulling people back in from vacation. You're at Earth. You got to fly to the fucking neutral zone, which is outside of Federation. There's no one else to
Right.
go
Like
deal with a group of hillbillies with paintball guns that have taken over an outpost that you clearly don't give two shits about.
the
Right?
Excelsior's right there. You did it. An establishment shot. Just send them. Like, who do you got commanding it? Has to be somebody, right? That can handle the Borderlands people. No problem.
You know, we're not talking about, hey, there's a doomsday weapon. We need our best of the best. They drag him up there. They send him out. The doors aren't opening. The set itself doesn't look bad.
Yeah, they perfect the look of the Enterprise A in Star Trek 6. I like the idea of how they have the console set up. You know, the sort of like very late 80s, you know, starting to go towards digital, but still very analog, but it's not quite as like 60s looking anymore.
Yes.
It looks appropriate to the era. It looks more like a functional piece of actual technology. Nothing much else happens in this first act that's notable aside from, you know, just this foreboding. Who is this guy who took it over? He's Sybok. Spock doesn't say at the time that he's his brother for no particularly good reason. And Spock should, under any circumstance, had said it right then and there. Like, that's my half brother. You should be aware of that. Him withholding that information is absolutely not in his character. And then they finally start the mission.
We find out also that there is another faction called the Set Reuse. And that's the old bridge from 4, and it's got some new people working on there. There's Spice Williams, the Klingon
and some
muscle.
random Klingon commander guy who apparently just wants to kill Kirk because it would make him a big deal if he got to be the person to kill Kirk.
This guy looks like Carrot Top.
If you were a Klingon, yeah.
He is Carrot Top through and through. That's all I could see. Our introduction to him is hanging out and shooting at old Earth satellites.
He's a bored Klingon privateer who wants to go and try and be the guy who kills Kirk so he can be a legendary warrior. That's it. That's all you fucking know about this guy, and
he doesn't
matter. He's there to provide a bit of an antagonistic force.
He doesn't even get punched. In fact, he gets invited over for a fucking reception. Like that's how low energy his villainy is.
When he gets jobbed by the fat Klingon, they don't even show it on the screen. You know, like, it's just cut to, all right, the fat Klingon has jobbed you. Like, it's already over. You're being forced to apologize.
He's come on board. He has taken away all of your comedy props. You are left with nothing. You will fold. And now, Carrot Top, you shall apologize. That's the real time crunch here, is that you got to go deal with this hostage situation before the Klingons show up. The Romulans already know they don't care about this place. They're just sending, I don't know.
They're literally sending their trash there. They're the only ones who know what it's about, so they're sending all their worst people.
I'm thinking what this new ambassador would have done that she's getting set there. I don't know. She got second place working at her own go-go bar, and now they're reassigning her there to like class a place. I don't know. The Romulans are the real mystery in this entire thing. So off they go. And again, as you said, at no point does Spock give full disclosure on, hey, I know exactly who this motherfucker is that's taking these hostages. They get in close, and they decide they're going to be sneaky. Also, the transporters are broken for pretty much the entire episode. So
yeah, for plot reasons, the magic transportation device cannot work, and so they pop down on shuttlecraft.
Speaking of that, real quick, that looks like a next generation Type 6 shuttle.
They can't land too close, otherwise they're going to alert them. So they have to be far away, but they have to get all this done before the Klingons show up in approximately 2 hours. And the only way they're going to get there in time is if they steal a bunch of horses. And
you know, you got a hostage situation. I can't take this movie, Joe. If you had your wife hostage in your house and I could go over there and I could wave a magic wand and transport her out
Yeah.
of your hostage house into safety, if I could just magically teleport her, I think that'd be a pretty fucking impressive magic trick in my hostage negotiator arsenal.
Yeah,
Out of all the ships in Starfleet,
they picked the one that doesn't have a transporter that's working. Right. Like it's not that Cybok has a defense against it. He doesn't have a technological device that's scrambling it. It's not that this planet doesn't allow it. There's no spackle that suggests that you wouldn't just be able to beam them up. This plot entirely and completely relies on the premise that the only ship that gets sent to deal with it is one that does not have a functioning transporter. That's it. That's all.
he could have been like, hey, listen, man, before you send me, listen, the last fucking time you guys put me on a mission that I didn't like have a proper briefing on, Khan popped out of the side hatch and killed my fucking son.
I mean, you guys, you're on my shit list.
Okay, so how about this? Instead of sending me out in an understaffed ship full of broken shit that doesn't have a transporter, how about I just go on the Excelsior right there?
And we just take that. We just roll that out. Yeah.
Let me bring my three amigos with me. Maybe Scotty too. I don't know if he's allowed to go back on. There might be a restraining order.
There is a picture of his face with a red like X through it. Like,
do not let this captain into
engineering under any circumstance. They got a captain of the writing crop is just standing there waiting.
No. You can't have the Excelsior. You sure? Because I mean, I just did an entire movie flying around on a fucking bird of prey. Like, I can't just have the Excelsior. No, you cannot have the Excelsior.
Can I have the bird of prey? Its transporters work.
Can the Excelsior follow me?
Can we both go?
Is there like a No Berth or a Miranda hanging around? Like they could meet me there just so I have this tool that might be yeah, and like Cybok, he knows what transporters are. Like it's not going to dawn on him like, this plan sucks. They're just going to fucking teleport these guys out of here. Stupid. So they're like, all right, we're going to fly down in a shuttlecraft. And then Sulu, you're going to pretend you're the captain.
No, you're going to go as Chekhov.
I'm sorry, Chekhov. You're going to go BS this guy and jerk him around while we do a dashing rescue attempt with us plus 6 guys. But we're going to have phasers. They're going to have rock shooters, and we're going to make we're going to make a pact that we're not going to shoot anyone. Like each person gets 3 shots on their phaser, and that's it. I do see they switched over to the cool looking phasers, though.
Yes, these are the big black, like kind of probably the best looking phasers that they ever made. And also the security guys had riot shields. Did you notice that?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Listen, if people are shooting at you with rocks, I would say a plastic shield is
a pretty good idea. It's good planning. They very notably have the scene where they have Uhura like do a sexy dance to lure away the Borderlands people from their horses so they can capture them,
who are crawling up a hill with their tongues hanging out of their mouth.
Okay, I guess any water in the desert.
At a certain point, you get sick of the 3-tip cat. All right.
I get the feeling that was
so many hair.
There was a lot of like talk about this movie from the folks that made it, and when Nichelle Nichols was talking about like this particular part, this was apparently something she wanted to do. This was like her idea.
Hey, you know what? It's not the movie's worst defense.
We say that a lot.
And if she's the one that came up with this, you know what? I love this scene.
Yeah.
Give me more. They come in on horses. They ride in. They all jump off. Then there's, shenanigans. Instead of just putting these phasers on wide dispersal and gunning everybody down, they're like fist fighting and shit. I think somebody actually gets killed by a Gatling gun. So good luck telling his family what happened. Kirk pushes into the bar. It's very quiet in the bar. He's investigating deeper. Cat lady jumps on him. I want to spend some time on this scene. So this cat...
This is fast. This whole sequence is fascinating.
Let's step back. Cybok has a power to co-opt people.
Yes, he does. He has co-opted powers, yes.
Basically, I'm going to get you to face your deepest pain And as you come out from the other side, you're going to be very grateful that I got rid of this terrible burden on you. You're arguably a better person, and you're loyal to me now because I've shown you the way. It's unclear how he has this power, if he was imbued with it by fake God, when fake God was giving him. It's not even really made clear if like fake God actually was in communication with Sybok to give him visions beyond the Great Barrier, or if this is like a legit crazy time quest that Sybok has dreamed up himself, and that was just the shitty thing they found on the other end. So maybe this is like fake God power that he's wielding. Maybe this is just forbidden Vulcan techniques he has, which we know that those are out there laying around, right? But he's not like neuralizing people. He's not putting shit in their drinks. This isn't like brain parasites. These are arguably okay people that are just happy he made them stop hurting, right?
His power and how it works is probably the only clever idea they came up with, because they do one clear demonstration of it on McCoy later, and how he's able to sort of penetrate their mental defenses and have this really psychologically uh, intimate moment with them, and helps them like relieve trauma, and that it bonds them to him. And therefore it's not mind control, it's like a different kind of sort of intimate suggestion.
My biggest
And
complaint about it is that it's not a mind meld.
it needed a line of spackle that it should have been related to those powers, right? Like that somehow he was so talented. Like they talk about he was a genius, that he was capable of things other people weren't capable of. There's some of that. There just needed to be a line of spackle of like that his capacity to explore the mind meld, like he took it to the next level. And he found out a way to do that by tapping into his emotions. That's the secret. That could have been it. Like that he's the one that figured out, if I could be a Vulcan that can tap into my emotions, I can realize actually the psychic potential of my race. And he's actually not a bad guy. Like he has motives that are overall quite positive. He wants to find God because he thinks he's been sent on a mission to do so, because he thinks it's good for the galaxy. He's a religious convert kind of, and he's using this power to help people realize the end of their pain. He doesn't want violence. Like he is an interesting character in a bad movie. And we haven't talked about him yet. The actor is so much the discount version of Sean Connery, the guy who they wanted for this. It's striking. Nothing against him. This guy's name was Lawrence Luckinbill. He basically didn't have much of a career aside from this specific film, and he does a pretty good job.
I liked him. I think he could have been in any other movie and been great.
Yes.
Had they made him a legit villain, had they made him the evil Vulcan that was going around and mind melding people and converting them and enslaving them, he could have legit taken a whole fucking rogue fleet and been like a legit problem for Starfleet, instead of a nice guy that just wanted to find God and was pretty sure he could do it and empowered people to get past their emotional. I guess that's kind of like they didn't care about mental health in the 80s, where making somebody feel better was basically the same. Listen, all this is to say, when Kirk's walking through the bar and the 3-tit kitty go-go dancer jumps on him.
Oh yeah, I forgot we're talking about that. Yeah.
And like he's got her stuck on his head. I don't know if he's got a knife on him or what, but she goes from being very much alive and attacking to him throwing her. She goes into this billiards table that's actually like pool.
Yeah.
And dead man floats.
And then, okay, this is a terrible fight scene. All the action in this movie is terrible. The effects are terrible. ILM did not do the effects for this film. It's noticeable. They're awful. They're almost like incomplete. There's a warp sequence in the second act. That might be one of the worst effects I've ever seen.
How about Sulu going to shoot the people up there and the fucking laser is coming out of the gun as he's drawing it. So he like it whips it like a fucking, like a silly hand.
And then, yeah, like he throws her into the pool and she's just dead. Her soul just left her body. The cat lady's just fucking dead.
This poor go-go dancer
just kills her, apparently.
This poor go-go dancer working in this fucking armpit Pandora. I don't know if he breaks her neck. I don't know if he stabs her. I don't know if she hits her head flying through the air. But yeah, she's just in the fucking pool, dead man floating. that could have been Bones. Like, nobody is being turned evil. They're just trying to help their friend find God. And Kirk has killed this woman on screen, and nobody says a goddamn thing.
And except like he just like stares at it. And, like I think it was McCoy comes in. No, Spock comes in and is looking at him like, huh. All right, anyway, let's go find the ambassadors. I guess. Like,
Jesus
that was
Christ,
weird.
Jim. I heard you tell him you stun outside. Like, why would you kill one of 3 women in this movie? What's wrong with you?
They get captured. Everyone's converted. And the whole reason this is happening is Sybok wanted to steal a starship because he's got a mission. And the mission that they're going to begin is to try and seize control of the undermanned Enterprise, but it is presently dealing with the fact that the Klingons have shown up and they went to cloak. Scotty points it out, so Chekhov raises shields because obviously they're going to try to attack, which is confirmed on screen, and so they can't land the shuttlecraft because the shields are up. So they have to come up with a way that the shields can be lowered for the least amount of time and allow them to escape. So their big genius plan is land the shuttlecraft manually in the bay, which apparently is something that you don't do, which seems very strange. I would assume that's something an expert pilot like Sulu would have done a million times, but whatever. And you do get to the worst effect shot in the movie at that point after
Is that when Spock knocks a horse out? That was so bad.
That effect shot when Chekhov says warp speed now, it's literally like MS Paint. Like the warp speed effect is the static image of the Enterprise just moves off screen. It doesn't look like it's actually moving. It's like you just moved the image
they had a
off
transparency
screen
of the Enterprise, and they move it away from.
Yes, and then they put
scene
like
where the
lines
TV behind it.
It's bad.
They fly the thing in there. They make a real big deal out of it. Off they go. Kirk tries to get the leg up on Sybok because everybody's like all banged up and fucked up, and he's like, "All right, I'll take you to the bridge." Sybok beats the shit out of him and bounces him off the side of the shuttle. Spock comes out, and having just taken out his rage on a horse, he no longer has the capacity of violence for his brother. Instead of shooting him in the leg or whatever, or knocking his brother out, or getting in a fist fight or anything, he's just like, I guess you can have the Enterprise. I guess, has he said that they're going to go towards the Great Barrier yet, or no?
That doesn't happen until after they've kind of seized control of the ship. So after the fight where Kirk actually orders Spock to kill Sybok and he doesn't do it, which I like. That was a major moments of contention between the two. I'm like, I ordered you to defend your ship. Like, well, why in the world didn't you shoot him? Like, I had absolutely every expectation you were going to kill that man. And then, of course, they do that because they want to have the dramatic reveal that it was his brother, and they're
I like
doing
Bones
comedy
having
beats.
Spock's back, though.
I do like the idea of this scene makes sense if one, the idea that Spock wouldn't disclose that information is completely ridiculous, and two, that they decided again to shit all over their own momentum with jokes. I gotta sit down, make a seat, sit. Like it's dumb humor that's taking out the dramatic tension. Also, like that you gotta play Spock like he's emotionally completely regressed in order to make this work. Of like, I don't understand. I didn't understand I had to reveal all this information. And he didn't like understand he had to explain he was a half brother. And like all this, like it's so forced and it's so stupid.
Bill Shatner's frustration with the two of them by the end of that scene, though, was good.
It was.
Working with those guys, I would have that like.
Bill Shatner is actually not bad in this movie either.
He's not, man. There's some like you could tell the stuff he wrote himself because everybody else is kind of just like blah, 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 and he is into it.
Yeah.
They escape. Scotty blows him out of the new brig that's impossible to escape. They're running around. What the hell was the episode of DS9 with the space wheelchair lady?
Oh, Melora.
That's all I could think of as they're walking through these Jeffries tubes or whatever. There's just pipes at knee level all over the place. It's just trip and bang your head hazard. Forget about
it. Then you got your wish, right? Like you get your OSHA violation right on screen.
Mm-hmm. Like, and he hits his head soon enough and hard enough that I think one of them should have been like, let's go back and check on Scotty. This doesn't sound good. They're running around, hijinks, whatever. They eventually all get caught again. Trying to contact someone in Starfleet to be like, hey, shit's fucked up. This guy is crazy. He is going to fly us into the Great Barrier, and we should all believe, being Starfleet officers, that this is him about to kill everybody on this fucking ship.
Right. This is a thing that nothing has ever been able to pierce successfully. So just going in, that's probably going to kill us.
So let's talk about the Great Barrier. Is this the first time it's ever mentioned?
So yeah, this is just kind of like a weird concept for Star Trek. This isn't something they've ever returned to either, obviously.
So the Great Barrier is a phenomenon that they have tried to study. It destroys probes. No ships even tried to go in there, and they've just been like, all right, fuck this thing. And Cybok's like, nah, we're going for that.
And it also doesn't make sense just like geographically in the galaxy. But that's, again, like, what is this movie's least crime? Is not like having a great map of Star Trek's like admittedly confused geographical understanding of itself. So like getting to the center of the galaxy would actually take years, probably, at the speeds that they could travel, blah, blah, blah. We're obviously not a movie going to be in any way concerned with that concept.
This area that they're in with the ship's wheel, what do they call this? The forward observation room?
Correct.
They get some decent dramatic lit scenes in there, touching on McCoy's emotional trauma. And they kind of go into Spock's too with, oh God, what's his dad's name? Sarek's disappointment at his birth, which I don't know how I feel about that.
It's a metaphor for his overall relationship with his father, which is to say that he's always been distant from him because he's half human and he's had difficulty relating to him. And we've seen that, right? Like, that was probably one of the better moments of Star Trek 4 there at the end when they were talking, and Sarek's trying to compliment the fact that Spock has great colleagues in Starfleet, and that he was wrong to suggest that Spock shouldn't have joined Starfleet. And he goes, "They are my friends," and he's like disappointed a little bit at his emotional response and calling them friends. He goes, "Yes, of course." Just like a little bit of contempt. Like I get where that is in this character of Spock. It's not that I don't understand it. It's just that I don't buy the idea that Spock has like some sort of deep-seated trauma about it at this point. Like, it works with McCoy. McCoy's an emotional man. McCoy has pain. He's going to be susceptible to what Cybok has to offer. Spock shouldn't. The way Kirk resists Cybok is the way that Spock should have resisted Cybok. I think a version of the scene where the dramatic turn is, it works on McCoy, it works on Kirk, and he tries to do it to Spock, and he goes, "I refuse to participate. I refuse, because I've learned through my lived experience, live and dead, how important my pain is to motivating me to who I am, and you will not take that from me." And have the conflict between the brothers instead of between Kirk randomly and this guy.
Well, again, that's Shatner's ego, I'll say.
Yeah, I agree.
Kirk's speech about, no, I need these things to define me and push me, I think really work. And there's a lot of generation.
I hate to shit on that because that's like one of his better moments in the film, but I still think it would have been better if Spock is giving that version of that speech.
Well, by the end, McCoy's been co-opted. Kirk's not allowed to go to the bridge to see what happens. And Spock decides he's going to hang back. And then McCoy's like, fuck it, I'm going to stay here too. And Cybok's like, all right, that's fine. You guys can just be here together. I'm not leaving guards and I'm not locking the door. So you guys are just here on Scout's honor while I fly the ship into effectively a brick wall. And they're like, cool, we'll hang out here, we got. And they do nothing to stop the ship that he's flying into a black hole. And luckily, somehow it fucking works. And he scoots on in through there. Which,
no problem.
Start asking like meta questions here. Like, so does that mean, what are we going to call Fake God? Does he have a real name? Is there anything in the wiki like what this energy creature is?
False god is the only really way it's described.
So fake god is a prisoner inside the Great Barrier, put there presumably by either a higher authority or he was foolish and went in there and got himself stuck. Who knows?
And Star Trek's got plenty of these kinds of little creatures that lurk throughout its lore. So that's like it in and of itself not a problem.
No, it's not a problem. Did he use some sort of psychic ability to reach out past the Great Barrier and touch Sybok to lure Sybok in to bring him a ship? Which I think is kind of what they're inferring, because Sybok was very hard set about getting a starship, and this guy wants a starship. So does false god have the ability to impact the Great Barrier and allow things in safely? Who the fuck knows?
You could have built a coherent story here, right? Like you had pieces. You could have used that Sybok's extra special abilities have made him vulnerable to his manipulations that no one else had ever been. That, the inability of anything to emerge through the Great Barrier had to do with no one having Sybok's specific ability to be able to manipulate whatever this sort of supernatural barrier is. Like, the pieces are there. You could have erected them together. They just kind of didn't.
And normally I would really be banging the drum on how disjointed and shitty these story elements are, especially in a fucking movie. I don't care though. Like even all this shit's not the worst crime this movie's committing. Like I'm at this point, I'm like, just get this goddamn thing over. I don't care how many sharks we got to jump. I don't care how much we have to ramrod. Get them through the fucking barrier, whatever. And let's say Sybok somehow allowed them passage. Let's say that fake god relaxed the barrier to let them get passage. Still doesn't explain how the Klingons got it.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So they get down to the surface. The transporter's still broken. They take a shuttlecraft down. At this point, Sybok's like, I am no longer hostaging anybody. Captain, you can have your ship back, but I think you're going to want to go down and check this out because you're an explorer. And then Kirk's like, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it by the book. I'm in charge. Here's orders. We're going to take this shuttlecraft down to a national park in Southern California.
And it's going to be me and my homies and you, Sybok. That's it. Just the four of us. We're the ones going to go meet God. Mm-hmm. Let's go, homie. So, they wander around a bunch of rocks. Apparently there was supposed to be a fight with a rock monster at some point that they cut out because it looked too cheap.
Well, don't worry. They took care of that for you in Galaxy Quest and it looked great.
Apparently that was a direct reference to the fact that there was a cut scene with a rock monster from this film, by the way. It was in Memory Alpha. Very interesting point.
I love Galaxy Quest.
I do. One of the best Star Trek movies ever made. Mm. And they make their way to where all of the pointy rocks are and invoke wanting to talk to God. And sure enough, an energy being of some kind that manifests itself as a bearded grandfatherly figure makes itself known and tries to...
Let's call him Zordon.
Zordon shows up and is like, hello, I am God. I am pleased you're here. And
I'm old and wistful, as you can tell by my voice clearly having a Werther's original peanut butter butterscotch disc.
And he talks about needing a starship. And that's when you get to maybe this movie's classic line. When Kirk raises his hand and it interrupts all the monologuing between Sybok and Zordon and says, what does God need with the starship? Which you would think Zordon would be prepared to answer. Like, you're going to have to convince these people to do this. And that seems like a very basic inquiry. One you should be prepared to answer.
It's a fucking mess. Because you have, like, this really nails that Zordon does not have telepathy or any sort of telepathic power. Who the fuck is this guy back here? Who is that? Well, you tell me. Yeah. You're God.
You're God.
So, if I'm reading this correctly, he never actually called Sybok in. This is a big coincidence. Maybe Cybok's like a precog or something. Cybok's like, I know there's a being of great power in here, and that my tarot cards or my magic 8-ball has told me I need to do this, and I'm gonna go do it. And here's Zordon just chilling out a prisoner in the middle of the planet or whatever, and all of a sudden he's like, "What the fuck is that? So, someone's invoking my name. Let me. Oh my god, who are you guys? What a coincidence! There's people. You don't happen to have a starship, dude." He's like, "Dude, we totally have a starship." He's like, "Oh shit."
Oh, what a God! I was in the market.
Well, what do you need a starship?
thought?
What do you need a starship for? Fuck, man. You know, if I had like 15 minutes to think about this, I'd have a hell of a lie. But you're asking me on the spot here.
I just wasn't expecting anyone to drop by.
I don't know. I guess I need Omega rays. That's what I need.
Shoots eye bolts at Spock and at Kirk, and then like comically like seem to pierce them, but don't really seem to affect them very badly. They've got like burn marks. Like Quark got more bodied by a fucking phaser blast than these dudes getting shot in the chest. My God,
you stole it, man. I was like, Quark got rocked back further with the Kablamo gun by Smoldering Murderer than fucking Kirk takes from God. So Zordon quickly loses his social buy-in here when he starts Omega beaming everybody. And they're like, "Oh fuck, maybe we've made a terrible mistake. Quick, here's the plan. You guys run from this disembodied Zordon. I am going to tackle him. I'm gonna
go. Yeah, I'm just gonna go body God. I'm just gonna clothesline him and shoot a torpedo at me. This is the plan. Okay, huddle up, boys. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go tackle God, and you're gonna shoot a nuke at it.
Whoa! What do you mean gonna tackle God? I'm gonna jump into the Phantom Zone. Because he's in there. He's looking like me right now. I'm taking this personal. I'm gonna go tackle myself. I'm gonna throw my line. I'm gonna go ahead and give him again my special ability of promoting positive mental health is going to be portrayed as villainous as I threaten somebody with it, as I threaten Zordon.
Let me take away your pain.
Yeah.
Oh God, not that.
I'm gonna come in there and therapy you. Oh, it's fighting words now.
You might come to emerge from this a better, more whole person.
After I'm done tackling you, you might not be Omega-raying people over basic fucking questions. You guys go run. We're going to get in a running gun with a disembodied head. I guess.
So they shoot the torpedo, and like God's angry. Zordon's coming for them. He gets Kirk, gets Spock and McCoy beamed out, and then the transporter's busted. And so now this movie's crescendo is Kirk trying to solo God, right? Like it's where we go with this movie is what's happening. Kirk, only one man can stop evil Zordon God. It is James Tiberius Kirk. And he's just like you said, he's in a run and gun with God until the Deus Ex Machina of the fat Klingon. Why is he in this movie? So that Spock can tell him he has to go tell the Klingons that have followed them into the Great Barrier with no explanation to stop and then fly the bird of prey down there and shoot God some more.
Let's play this out. You're going to be General Fat Ass. All right.
Okay.
Who's been disgraced. He's mandatory reading in the Federation, but they've got him working at Planet Borderlands. And you are now going to tell me, Captain Carrot Top, who I've just crazily flown my fucking ship into like the death trap. So you're gonna tell me to back off.
Okay. Hey, back off.
No.
If you don't, I might wag my very sausage-like finger at you.
Yeah, you can die with everybody else, I think. I'm clearly off my fucking hinges here.
Well, we won't know because it's not on fucking screen. Like, they just don't show it.
Here's what I need. General Fatass being like, yo, knock it off. I'm a general, and we're not doing this. And then Carrot Top would be like, no, fuck that. Today's a glorious day to die. And then Spice Williams comes up behind and gets him in a fucking dragon sleeper hold and kills him.
It's good to see you.
And kills him and goes, I'm a huge fan of your work. I loved
Yeah.
your book. While she's holding this guy's fucking corpse who's
Yeah.
been picking on the Enterprise in its limp along state the entire time. And he's like, you're the new captain. Come on over to the Enterprise. We're going to do a fucking party. You're going to bang some humans. And she's like, yeah. None of that. That might actually save this whole fucking movie there. If like the end fight sequence would have been like Spice Williams and Carrot Top.
Instead, the bird of prey, rolls in, blows up God. Kirk's like, all right, kill me, you damn Klingon bastards, and then, gets beamed aboard. And
yeah, some real late stage explosive racism there for him.
Yeah. Don't worry, they'll come back next movie. And the Klingon general makes the guy apologize, and they have a please sir not in front of the Klingons moment with Spock, and another joke. And we end our movie with we're all just hanging out near the planet where fake God just got blown up by a goddamn bird of prey, and we're just gonna have some drinks and hang out a little bit, and then apparently head back to Eucynime like nothing fucking happened. What a fucking mission briefing to send back to Starfleet Command. Like, listen, guys, I know you sent us out to go deal with some fucking rock throwing people on planet Borderlands, but I wound up meeting God and having to solo him until the Klingons showed up and blew him up. So here's that report. Thanks for keeping me in this organization. I definitely don't regret it.
Admiral Morrison, can you read me? Yes, Kirk. Have you diffused the situation at Planet Borderlands? You are not going to believe where I am calling you from right now. I'm inside the Great Barrier.
It's like, do you think like on Starfleet Command, they're like, Jim, will you please stop doing shit like this? I just send you out to deal with some brushland bullshit, and now you're blowing up God. You made your career doing bullshit like this. Stop it.
Did you ever disprove it wasn't God? I mean, he shot me.
Yeah, but was he still God? Is all of creation going to collapse because he doesn't exist? You killed him.
Did you read the Old Testament? That seems like something an angry, wrathful God would do. Like, what have you done?
Suddenly it's raining frogs and shit.
Also,
something with biblical plagues.
Yeah. Also, they take out Zordon, who maybe did allow them entry into the Great Barrier. And where's the conversation? They're like, hey, can we get out of here? Are we stuck? Is it just us and the Klingons here? Because I'm calling dibs on Spice Williams. We're going to have to start cross-populating. I want you to compare James Kirk and whatever existential I'm getting old crisis he has with Psytech, who's like, how am I going to top reigniting a sun? Like, where can my career possibly go from there? And that's a moment that James T. Kirk absolutely never has in his career.
Yeah.
Like, he just killed God. You don't see him sitting there like being mopey, like, I don't know, Bones. Where do I go from here? How do I top that? Don't weep for the warrior. Weep for the man who has killed all of his foes, Bones. I'm at the end.
It's it. We're done here.
So this thing, I mean, we just spent an hour and 23 minutes taking the litany of crimes committed here, and each one was not the worst thing this movie committed. What is the true mortal sin here? What is really what has made this thing such a pile of shit?
I think this is a perfect example of a film that is a death by 1,000 cuts. We actually, I think we're pretty generous to this, and maybe Kurtzman Trek has made us more generous in terms of considering these things. Like, we talked a lot about things about this movie that weren't terrible. And when you think about the movie as a whole, there's not one thing. It's just the choppy writing process led to a script that nobody wanted, and no one was in a position to basically like turn into something else. And they had to make a movie, right? Like, they're under the gun. They have to go make it this thing. And this is what they had. And there wasn't a They had disempowered the creative force behind the Star Trek universe that could have potentially been the right person to bring this under control. And for good reason, because he proved to be unreliable for other reasons.
Yes.
And this is what you wind up with, is that you don't have a single creative voice behind what you're doing, and therefore you find something that's too disjointed and too totally erratic to work as a film. Despite the fact you've got a good guest star playing your, call him villain, but not really. You've got pretty good scenes with your
Let's call him a
three main
mental health
characters.
professional, which may as well be a villain in the fucking 80s.
And there's a lot of this movie that's begging to not be shit, and it's just doesn't come together. And it's striking when you compare it to Star Trek 6, which is a movie that has one creative voice behind it that knew exactly what it wanted to be, and it turned out great. So I think that's the lesson.
Real quick, back to Gene Roddenberry. He shit the bed on the first movie. They got real lucky on the second movie, and that, I think, is what really peeled him away. But like, looking again at Next Gen, the difference in tone from season 1 to season 2,
striking.
Like,
it's a different show.
Getting him out of the decision making seat absolutely was the right decision.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was from a different era, right? Like, he was a man who made television in the 60s. It's the 80s. Like, it's 20 years later. His ideas don't work. Like, it would be like somebody if you think about it, this might be charming now because we don't like the media that's being made in the 2020s.
Yeah.
So if somebody came in with 2005 level energy, that might actually be somewhat people might respond to that.
Sign me up. Again, fucking Orville coming in with that old storytelling format and it working great. I'm going to say the main crime, the real crime of this movie is the bad comedy. I think you could have had all of the other problems, but if it was a movie taking itself seriously that could really hit on some strong emotional beats, that without the comedy kicking the legs out from underneath it in those scenes, that it wouldn't have been a great movie, but it wouldn't have been dog shit. And I think that there's a lot of ways to rework the pieces out of here, specifically Sybok as a compelling character. Had he gone full black hat cult villain that was really indoctrinating people,
that's one way to go.
Or if he was a legit value add into another plot, that you could have done some really cool stuff. And again, that actor did a great job, I thought, for who he was.
He could have played a more black-hatted version, or he could have kept him in a more sympathetic position. Just you had to format this differently for it to work, and it just doesn't. So,
and that's the other thing too. Just real quick to harp on it, like there is a plot in here about brotherhood, and these are my brothers that I have chosen, and the family that I have made for myself. And here is the family by blood, and they do absolutely nothing with that at all. Like I don't want to say it's criminal. It's shocking.
It's in the movie too. It's like it's right in front of you, and they couldn't do it.
If he was a true black
a little bit at the end.
If he was a true black hat, I'd be like, I'm picking my real brothers, not my blood brother.
Right.
And I'm going to cast you off into the fiery pit or whatever the fuck, evil Sybok would have done. It's crazy. And I see exactly what you mean. Like, it's a table. There's cool shit on the table. It gets arranged bad and nobody can like put their hands on to fix it because other people are slapping their hands away and everybody has to go, this is the best we can agree on.
Correct. And we have to get this movie in, right? Like, there's an expectation. The studio wants this done. They want it in theaters. They want to make the revenue. So at a certain point, you just have to shoot what you have. So
too bad. All right. Yes. Kirk killed the cat lady. I know he shouldn't have, and that's really off brand on him, but I'm refusing to let you fix this. She has to be in there, dead man floating in the billiards table.
So we got one more Star Trek film in the TOS era to do as Patreon reviews. We will do it relatively soon. It is Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. It is my favorite Star Trek movie. It's one of my favorite pieces of Star Trek media. I think that it'll be a very interesting, different take. But would you, as a final thought, recommend people watch Star Trek 5?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything
skip worth 4 while you're at it too.
No, don't listen to Peter. But on Star Trek 5, like there's just not enough here to actually justify an hour and a half of your time.
The only thing you take away from Star Trek 5 is knowing that rocket boots exist. So every time there's a cave scene or any other nonsense, you're just asking yourself, where's
Where
this
are the
fucking
fucking rocket boots?
Like,
What are
that
you
is
doing?
the only thing that really matters in this. No, like I said, it boils down to Kirk's line about, I will not die as long as the other two of you are around, because that is how strong our brotherhood is.
Something that came all the way back in Unification. That thing that we watched and did that little Patreon review for, if you recall.
Yes.
You know, like the idea that these men don't, you know, they're there for each other to the very end.
And some cool world building for McCoy's character. And based on those two things alone, no, I cannot say that there is anything worth it. I spent this entire movie with my phone in my hand.
I watched it at 1.25 speed and then watched the
On
third
what?
act at
How?
1.5 speed.
Was it on Netflix or are you just back on Paramount Plus?
On I did not pay for this movie.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Dude, I got tricked into fucking Paramount Plus. I'm so pissed. $8 stolen out of my pocket.
I'm sorry.
Me too. It wasn't my fault. It was my dad's fault.
And I am not sorry, though, about everyone who watched and listened to us talk about Star Trek V, especially to our lovely patrons who are getting this first. And if you are listening to this when it's on our standard feed, probably after this season 2 of Deep Space Nine wraps up, if you'd like to support the show by supporting us in Patreon, we'd welcome it. www.patreon.com/feature, $3 a month. Wouldn't mind it whatsoever. We don't try to make money on the podcast. We're just trying to reclaim our costs, which right now we're, kind of just barely doing. So we appreciate that. But if you are wanting to help us out, appreciate that as well. Take care, everybody.